And we are back with the Striker Tejas. Man, I'm embarrassed today, guys. Look at the studio that Edson Ochoa has made at his new home. This is like bringing the game up, and I guess I'll just go directly to the border, south border of Texas with in McAllen. Edson, that's some nice investment you done there, brother.
Man, the more it's close to the finishing touches, the more proud I am of how it's coming up. I think it's going to be very worth it, very fun, and I think, like you mentioned, I think it's going to give a huge plus to the Striker Tejas podcast in its video form.
And not just our podcast, you also have your own podcast for RGV, right? Which you do with some guys down there on the border, which is pretty cool. You should check it out at some point. But I am disappointed, Edson, with the fact that you got this nice studio, no NASCAR hats today. What happened?
No NASCAR hat today because I'm wearing the accursed turtle jersey today. So I don't have a hat that actually blends well with it. So
Sounds good, brother.
next week I'll remember.
I want to see that. I want to see that. We go all the way to the west border of Texas. Talk to my friend Joe Rodriguez. Not necessarily the perfect weekend for you guys, but uh, on your personal life, how was your weekend, brother?
Oh no, weekend was great. Hello, Roberto. Good to be back on for another edition of the Striker Tejas. Good to be back also, as always, with Edson and with Jonathan, who him and I got to share the press box out at Southwest University Park for the first time and take in what was an interesting match uh, between El Paso Locomotive FC, San Antonio FC, in a match that I think left a little bit to be desired. I thought the match overall would be a little bit better than what it was, but it was still plenty entertaining and definitely gave us is going to give us plenty to talk about here in a few minutes.
Nice, very, very, very good. Um, from El Paso to San Antonio, um, special moment, special week for the franchise overall. First ever trophy of this franchise, Copa Tejas 2022. Uh, Jonathan, how was your weekend? Your travel to El Paso?
I think another good transition might have been from Edson's nice new studio to my bedroom. Same place I'm always doing podcasts from. But yeah, it was an exciting weekend seeing SAFC lift its first trophy. Joe might be onto something there. Maybe there was a little more to be desired in that game. It was still exciting, but there maybe weren't the most moments of quality and stuff. There was some moments where it could have been better, but on a personal note, I'm just glad to be done with about a week of just traveling all over Texas, never leaving it, but traveling all over Texas. I don't know if we want to do the guessing game of how many miles that those three trips were to Frisco, Houston, and El Paso, but I did the calculations about half an hour ago, so I'm ready if we want to do that. I'm just glad to be
Oh
relaxing at
man,
home for now.
before I give my guess on how many miles you had doing that, I want to say that it's not fair to say that you always do your podcast from your bedroom because you have done from many different hotels across the country on some of your trips following the San Antonio FC and with your beautiful and lovely parents, which I I'm glad I know them well. And well, by the way, saying hello to them and congratulations for their first Copa Tejas ever. I hope they're celebrating. By the way, I am here with my Crocketeer shirt. I don't know if you guys can see it on the back there, personalized one, and I think this can. I think it's a cool way. I thought was a good cool way to bring in for San Antonio today, and especially for Steve and Danielle. Both originally from the Crocketeers and the founders of Copa Tejas. Once again, congratulations for both of them on creating this, all the effort, all the work that they have put into this, and it's for the benefit of all of us. It's something that one of those things that a couple of people, put a lot of effort in, and everybody benefits from in our case from MLS all the way to USL, and it's been pretty cool, right? So, anyways, um, let's start with the easy one, or maybe not that easy one, but that's another loss, another bad game. But again, if you I think if it was not because of the constancy of losing games every other week, losing for San Diego in California 2-1, not necessarily a bad result by itself, but on the overall picture, doesn't look good for RGV.
I think at this point, RGV needs to uh, stop focusing more on the bright side of, like you mentioned, the, oh, it was at in California, it was against San Diego is doing well. I think at the end of the day, this team needs points. They need wins, if they want to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. Now, in this match, RGV, they tried to play at moments, not all 90 games, as John Morris, Avioso Tactics mentioned. That would have been harakiri for RGV. They had to try to play a high pressure. But in the first couple of minutes of the match, RGV played well. They kind of cornered San Diego Loyal to their own box. They got some opportunities, um, but you know like around 15 minutes into the match, San Diego had a goal taken away unjustly off of I don't know how the linesman saw offside, but that was a warning shot. That was a warning shot from San Diego that even though they didn't have the possession of the ball much, but they were deadly up on top, you know, and RGV continued to make concentration errors. Players getting in the way. They kind of and Tyler Derrick ended up getting 6 saves in this game, and some of them were like right at the line. So I think this game would have been a whole lot worse score wise for RGV had it not been for Tyler Derrick. So their first goal off of a throw-in, for the second straight match, where they, but this time this was a mistake by Emilio Icaza. He tried to play it cheeky. He tried to clear the ball off of a bicycle kick instead of playing it safe by using his head or kind of, I don't know, using, not throwing himself. So what ended up happening is the attacker got to the ball first, and that's where they got the first goal. They equalized in the 50th minute, but at the end of the day, it's defensive errors. The second goal off of a free kick, you had Eric Pimentel having to guard two offensive players by San Diego Loyal, and right behind him, you just see Frank Gaviria, the striker, just staring at the play. Pretty much had a front row seat to the goal. It was almost to the point like I was expecting Gaviria to clap. It was that's how out of the play he was, and it's another one of those things where where's the strikers? They're not appearing at all. How can you expect to win games when you have to rely on your defenders or midfielders to score the goals? Because this goal that they scored against San Diego, Eric Pimentel, your center back, had to score the goal. Frank Gaviria, nowhere to be found. You bring in Frank Lopez in the second half, a little bit of an improvement, but considering the fact that he's coming off of an injury and sickness, it's going to be a while for him to get back into 100% with the squad, and it's time that really RGV doesn't have the liberty to have.
RGV is sitting at this point on 11th place out of 13 teams in the Western Conference, 24 points in 21 games. Seems very, very hard for this team to make the playoffs at this point, right? I think, and again, we talk about that when we say that usually the team end up winning 2 or 3 and move up in the table, but I don't think we should expect that. I maybe the high note of this game would be that because it was an away game, Wilmer didn't have to talk to the press, so there was nothing interesting coming from his press conference. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. RGV is really not one of those teams that they'll have the coach available at away games. However, I believe that around Thursday they'll have media availability before practice. So it will be interesting to see what kind of responses he gives to the results, to the situation at hand. But I mean, they are making moves. GM Wilmer is making moves. They did announce today the inclusion of Jonas Joberg coming back after a very good end of the last season of last year with RGV FC. Had to go back to FC Cincinnati. Actually, Joberg was one of the key players in those last games to get the good positive results to be able to make it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, because of timing issues, he made his debut after the roster freeze deadline. He wasn't eligible to play in the playoffs. That's just how it is. Had to go back in the offseason with FC Cincinnati. He was loaned down to Indy 11. And today they announced a trade, between RGV and Indy 11. Jonas Gelber coming into the Toros, and you loan out or you send Jesus Vasquez over to Indy 11.
All right, so some movement there. Let's see if it brings some results on the coming games. Let's go to that special. We could even call, although it was not necessarily a final, but we could almost call it a final of Copa Tejas this year. El Paso hosting San Antonio FC. I am leaning here. I wanted to give the award first to San Antonio for winning this, but I think I'm going to give the award first to Joe. Joe, how disappointing was to lose this game, and how was the stadium and the locker room environment after the tough loss?
Yeah, no, I think the environment in the stadium. I think the home crowd for El Paso, it played its role. It was intense. It was engaged. It was loud for the entire 90 minutes. So from that standpoint, the home crowd lived up to its end. Of course, with the loss, we had access to center defender Yuma. We had Luis Lucho Solinek, who is a former forward for San Antonio FC. And they were, as every locomotive player, I think, has no problem being. They were self-critical in their performance. They were quick to point out that they had moments where the team execution on the field was good, and they created chances on goal. Obviously, those chances didn't result in any goals on Saturday night, but once again, they did acknowledge that the team played in moments. It wasn't a consistent, thorough performance. One of the reasons is you were playing one of the best teams in the league. So obviously, the San Antonio FC has to do their job. I think Yuma was spot on in what he said in the press conference, where he said, we lost tonight, but I also think that San Antonio struggled to get the win. And if you're going to come into our stadium, you're going to have to win the game pretty much the way they did, by struggling to get results. I mean, just struggling to get the result. He was very declarative in saying that they weren't close to showing superiority over El Paso, and I think that's an accurate, fair assessment. Was San Antonio deserving of the win? I believe so. I definitely believe so. But I think it was an even match. I think the first 45 minutes were a wash. I don't think any team stood out. San Antonio, had their chances. El Paso had a few less. Uh, El Paso dominated possession. San Antonio had the best opportunities to score. El Paso was saved by the post, I believe, on 2 or 3 occasions. Jonathan can clarify that. And also, I think El Paso had a couple of shots that were point blank that they didn't get in the back of the net. So all in all, I think it was a tough match. It was a good match. Once again, I still think it was a little bit left to be desired. I thought we were going to see a more explosive match over the course of 90 minutes. I think with San Antonio scoring the goal in the first 2 minutes of the second half, that gave the match what it needed as far as a sense of urgency and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think San Antonio gets the win, um, and in a deserving fashion, and they lift up the cup. And for El Paso, two losses in a row, and all of a sudden they're in fifth place, and only I believe 3 points from the last place of the playoff zone, and 3 points away from the eighth team, which is LA Galaxy. So slowly but surely, with the games in hand that the rest of the conference has in El Paso might need to start looking over their shoulder a little bit to see what everyone else is doing to make sure they don't get caught in what is moving down in the playoff zone as far as the conference table goes.
Yeah, so with the loss this past weekend, El Paso is sitting fifth, 33 points in 23 games. It's still sitting inside playoff position, like you said, starting to be a little bit in a dangerous situation, but it's still doable to make the playoffs, right? I don't think it's a surprise to anybody if that would happen. We go to San Antonio again, like I said on the beginning of our podcast today. First trophy on franchise history. San Antonio had an NASL championship before that, right? But it was San Antonio Scorpions, was not San Antonio FC under the Spurs. But I guess I know people in San Antonio in the franchise, they won that trophy at the end of the season in USL championship. That's what they want. But with the amazing season in this trophy now, I think it's already a historic season for San Antonio. Is that fair, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, so far it's a historic season, but at the same time, if we're talking about this being such a good SAFC team, then all the more reason that you don't settle for just the one trophy for just a good first half of the season. They now, I think, have to close it out. I mentioned last week they haven't really seen any extended periods of adversity yet. At least not that stand out. They've been able to steamroll through any small ones that have popped up here and there, like with injuries. So we'll see if they're able to carry it out. But I know something Justin Dillon said after the match was in the locker room, they were saying, all right, this is our first trophy of 3 this season. That's kind of their mentality going forward is, okay, great, we got this one, but there are bigger fish to fry at the end of the season when we are going into these single elimination games in the playoffs, facing some of the other great teams in the West. We've seen in previous years in a one-off game, anything can happen. For a few years, the first seed kept losing to the eighth seed out in the Western Conference. So SAFC, they'd have a bye first round, but they'd have to make sure that they stay sharp. They know that everyone's going to have their scope set on SAFC trying to take them out. Um, but yeah, so it's just a stepping stone. It is the first of 3 boxes that they want to check by the end of the season.
What are the would be the second the other two? One is the trophy, and the other one is what the
Winning the conference, I
So
would assume.
yeah, so I'm not sure if they're thinking conference championship or like supporter shield. I don't know if there officially is a supporter shield trophy for the best
okay.
record in the league, across both
So
conferences. But
so talking about that, San Antonio is sitting comfortably in first place. About talking that, it's sitting first in the Western Conference with 46 points, 19 games. When Louisville is the first on the other conference with 43 points, so 2 points below San Antonio, but with a game more, right? With 20 games, so uh, no, in a pretty good situation, San Antonio with this. So I want to do a little change on our usual route. Harry, one of the San Antonio fans, I believe he's from the Crocketeers also, right, Jonathan? If I'm not
correct,
mistaken. So
yes.
Harry, who's I could even say he's our most loyal listener, with your mom, I think, Jonathan, with Gina. I think both of them are the ones that listen to every podcast that we do every minute, and also he's very critical of the things that we do in the striker overall, right? Positive and negative. I think he's a very vocal and has helped us to be better every now
which
and then. And
which
he
we
made
appreciate greatly.
we of course we do. I think we only do what we do because of the people that are our subscribers and are following us, and we can only get better if we listen to people, and we want more of that. We want more Harrys to help us really, balance out what we're doing. But he posted something this week that was very very cool, even challenging me a little bit, saying out of the three USL Copa Tejas champions, the Austin Bold of 19, the El Paso of 21, because in 2020 we didn't have a Copa Tejas, and 2022 San Antonio, if they were to play against each other, which one was the strongest one? And then he punched me a little bit, saying definitely not the Bold, because I didn't like that team. Roberto, I'm sorry, right? He made a little bit of a joke. Um, so I just want to go across the room, around the room, and say, hey, if you had to choose one of the three to be the strongest one, or your favorite out of the three, and I'll start with that. And it would be very easy for me to say the Bold was a team that I put together. Of course, I would say that of the three Copa Terras, I would say that was the strongest or the most difficult one to win. I think all four teams were very, very similar at that point, right? But I really liked the El Paso of last year, right? The way the El Paso was playing last year, the structure that they had, and I am a big fan of the organization. But at the end, the numbers that the San Antonio FC has are really incredible. So I responded, but I did not respond. I really don't know which one was going to be was the best one. But who wants to kick off with your personal comment on this one?
I guess I'll go. I think, and it's one of those situations where I think it's just you're observing it from a distance, from the outside looking in. I think, or it appears to me, Jonathan can tell me something completely different, and I look forward to hearing, what he has to say. But I think for San Antonio this season, it seems like they've done it with a lot more ease than what El Paso did last year. And I think that's where the difference lies in between both teams. That's how I feel about it. And not only that, I think there's an added degree of difficulty this season in the fact that the diversity of the teams that you're playing against, you're getting a bigger sample of everyone that you're playing, as opposed to last season where it was a bit of a baseball schedule and you were playing the teams in your division, numerous times and stuff like that, which has its own challenges in its own way, absolutely. But I think under the circumstances, I think San Antonio's shined a little bit more in the process up until this point of the season. Because one thing I do want to say about San Antonio is, we're talking about, how they are so far ahead up in the standings. Jonathan mentioned one, in a one-off match. Honestly, the healthiest thing I believe San Antonio can go through is to suffer not one, not two, but a few losses before this season's over, because the last thing you want is for you to go into that playoff season as on a streak, and then guess what? The law of averages, the mathematical law, will just catch up to you, and you're due for a clunker or a bad bounce or a bad luck, and it'll happen in the playoffs, and you're done.
And the other thing for the end of the season for San Antonio is also having this, fat to burn at the end of the season allows to get the team to play off in a much healthier situation overall. Literally health, preparedness for that. But talking about going back to the Copa Tejas comparison of the three teams, I think there's one thing that it is fair also for the Bold to be, is that the Bold won that on their expansion year, which is a more difficult also situation for the team itself. So, Edson, who would you say is the stronger one of the three?
Stronger team overall. I might feel it might feel a little bit biased because it's so recent, compared to like having to go back 3 years to remember how that Bold played. but I'm gonna have to also say this San Antonio team. I think the San Antonio team, despite the gripes that Jonathan mentions about them not finishing, I think they have a play style and a sturdy defense and midfield that that is able to hold on. Uh, their play. So even if the strikers come out on a bad night, if they can get one on net, they're able to squeak at least a draw, and that I think that sturdiness, that consistency that we have seen so far out of San Antonio this season, I think it's one of the best teams of that I've seen in all these years that we've had Copa Tejas. I think it's one, if not the best team out of all the Texas USL teams all these years.
Very cool. Very cool. Jonathan.
Well, good job, Edson. You took not only my answer, but some of the points that I would have made too. Um, yeah, I don't really remember the 2019 Bold team, and to be fair, obviously we're comparing things. It's kind of apples to oranges. These are different seasons. These are different coaches. Um, and for what it's worth, I mean, yes, Austin won in 2019 in an expansion season. El Paso was also an expansion team that year, and SAFC was maybe clinging on to its former head coach a season longer than it should have, arguably. But anyway, yeah, I think to me, I'm going to give the edge to SAFC. I think the 2021 Locos under Mark Lowry, it was a well-oiled machine, and I think you can say the same thing about the SAFC team this year. But I think we maybe saw more um, flaws in El Paso last year, whereas SAFC has just been so consistent this year. Has something Edson touched on is, even when they're not finishing that well, they find that chance or two and they get the goal. And this is an SAFC team that has the best defense in the league, has conceded the fewest goals. And that's not to say they're not having to face a lot of chances. Especially on Saturday, for example, El Paso was getting forward, showed plenty of attacking intent, is one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and SAFC's defense is really watertight, is just able to cope with that pressure, is able to repel a lot of those chances, putting in good blocks, clearing the ball when needed. Jordan Farr is a fantastic goalkeeper who can come up with those saves. So I think kind of rounding this back out, I think it just comes down to the consistency and the grittiness that this SAFC team has shown so far this year. I think it has the edge in that competition.
And I think one more thing that I want to add is the fact that San Antonio clinched Copa Tejas with a game to spare, because we still have to face each other. RGV and San Antonio still have that pending game later on the season, and San Antonio already clinched it. And I remember that 2019 Bold clinched it at the very end, playing against RGV. So I think overall there's just so many reasons why the San Antonio, I think, takes the cake.
Which by the way, I might be mistaken in forgetting somebody here, and if I am, we'll make sure to make the correction for next week. But that strong defense that you're talking about has actually a double champion of Copa Tejas, Fabian Garcia, who Joe made some comments about the fans in El Paso about his shorts, the way he uses his shorts, and all of those things. But Fabian was with the Bold in 19, lifted the trophy then, and lifts the trophy now with San Antonio, and Emma Tumazi lifted the trophy also with the Bold in 19 and with FC Dallas last year. So I think it's the only two players that have lifted Copa Tejas twice, although Tumazi was in two different levels, MLS and USL. But I think we got to take a look later on the staffs and see if there's anybody else. But anyways, we got 4 games this week. 2 of them, you might be listening to our podcast now, and they're going on right now because we're recording now Monday. Today's Monday night. Hopefully we got this podcast Tuesday morning for you, but you might be listening this on Wednesday. We got 2 games on Wednesday. RGV hosts Hartford again, once again, if you were coming from a loss, if you could choose a team in the league to play, maybe Hartford would be one of those teams. Hartford is sitting 10th in the Eastern Conference with 16 points in 20 games, so less than a point per game. Uh, should that be a little bit of you know uh, some easy moments for Wilmer?
See, I said that last season against Loudoun United, against Atlanta United 2, and they did not get favorable results against those two teams at home. So, forgive me if any Toros fans are listening. Forgive me for being a little pessimistic about it. But the fact of the matter is that, like I mentioned before, if the attackers don't show up, if Frank Gaviria uh, or Adolfo Hernandez don't show up and get some shots into the net, you know, then this team is doomed, honestly. And Hartford Athletic, yeah, they are pretty underwhelming, as far as the scores are. I know this past game against Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I mean, they lost just barely 2-1, but they only had one shot, one shot on target, which was the goal by Connor McGlynn in the 55th minute. But the thing is, they had possession. They had 58% possession, but you can see that they have no offensive capabilities, at least in this game against the Riverhounds, right? So there is a bigger chance, right, for RGV to get a more favorable results against Hartford, but they're gonna have to prove it. You cannot win just by theory alone. You have to put in the work. You have to perform on the pitch, because if you're trying to win just because you are a little bit better in the standings, soccer doesn't work that way.
Very, very cool. San Antonio FC has two back-to-back games now. Actually, we could say three if we consider the game this weekend, right? That they just played. So 3 games in 7 days, basically. It's flying to Nevada to play Las Vegas Lights on Wednesday, and then playing Los Dos at home on Saturday. Just two teams that are mid halfway into the table. Las Vegas is sitting sixth, 31 points in 20 games. Los Dos is sitting eighth with 30 points in 22 games. So looking at this, especially playing at home, Los Dos should be an easier game on Saturday. But I'll let you comment on those 2 games, Jonathan.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind, I think, is these are two MLS affiliate teams, like directly affiliated. Vegas, it's a little quieter, but they are affiliated with LAFC. Those players train over there. And especially with this game being in Vegas and LAFC not having a midweek match, you would expect that they might have some more dangerous players at their disposal. I'm not saying Gareth Bale and Giorgio Chiellini are going to be at Cashman Field on Wednesday night, but there are going to be more options there. It's a more difficult fixture on paper, as you said. Um, I think the safe bet is probably, as with SAFC, a lot of times this season, go on the road, get the goal, shut up shop defensively. But we'll see. And like you said, Saturday at home against Los Dos should be an easier match, but as you alluded to, these are both teams that are kind of bouncing around the middle of the table, up and down, one side of the playoff line and then on the other. And so they're going to want to, this is not going to be an easy match for them to try and get those points to boost their playoff chances. But you can't just discount it. You can't just throw it away. And guys like Preston Judd on LA's team, and they've got other guys, could just at any given moment show up and be difference makers, show that they are maybe players who actually have a future with the first team.
Very cool. El Paso, what a tough moment in the season, right? If you look back-to-back games with the two best teams in the league, at least stats wise on position played. San Antonio FC on past weekend, first in the Western Conference, and now playing Louisville first in the Eastern Conference, 43 points in 20 games, playing at home at least. Um, can El Paso do better with the best team in the Eastern Conference than they did with the Western Conference?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, El Paso, John Hutchinson can piece together, and I mean piece together a starting 11 that will allow for a competitive team. And the reason why I'm making comment towards this is because at the end of the press conference on Saturday, he stated, and I tweeted this out, that Eder Borelli, the left fullback, is probably out for the rest of the season. He needs most likely going to need shoulder surgery, and this is a significant blow to El Paso Locomotive. I've said it repeatedly, time and time again. If when Locomotive, when El Paso has a outstanding game, Eder Borelli usually can do whatever the hell he wants up and down that left flank. And I think El Paso loses a lot with that. And then of course with Louisville coming in, Louisville I think all three of us can agree, or all four of us, excuse me, can agree that Louisville is, I think, the gold standard when it comes to the USL Championship. They've made, they have accomplishments on the field, and I think off the field, as an organization, they do things quite well, and so it's a tough game. It's the first time they're ever going to play each other. So I think El Paso is going to be motivated from that standpoint. Then again, Louisville might too, if they're aware of also the fact that in a short period of time, El Paso has become an important organization or franchise or club in the USL Championship. So yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see the way this goes down, and also Roberto, for El Paso, they're still dealing with a little bit of off the field situations, and a situation by the name of Richie Ryan, and we haven't brought that up. It's something that came to surface last Tuesday. I wrote about it in my piece, my column last week for the Striker Texas. I invite everybody to check it out. But it appears that Richie Ryan's on the way out, and in all of this, the front office isn't looking too good with the way things are going down. So that's a bit of a distraction too. So it's going to be, if there isn't a positive result obtained by El Paso Locomotive come here on Saturday, things can get pretty bumpy pretty fast. I think for the franchise, and the way you mentioned it is, oh, there's still plenty of, they're still in a good position, stuff like that. But if we get a negative result come here on Saturday, or if El Paso, excuse me, not we, if El Paso gets a negative result here on Saturday, things are gonna be question, are gonna get rough here. So it's gonna be a very, very interesting match come on Saturday.
Very, very, very cool. All right. So now we come to that good moment on the predictions. Do you have the trophy there, Jonathan? Me and you, we both got the 3 points right this past round, which was an easier one. We gotta say, just 2 games. It's a little bit easier for us to get it right. So both myself and Jonathan betted on 3 points, which we got was the 3 points from San Antonio FC, and then the 0 points from RGV. 4 games this week. As usual, I'll start. I'm going to be a little bit optimistic in a way, but not that much. But I'll say 7 points out of the 12 points that we can get this round here. That's going to be my prediction here. Joe, what's yours?
Out of 12 possible points, 4 matches total, I will say I'll be the optimistic one. I will say a total of 8 points, 2 wins, and 2 draws.
Right. Jonathan.
It feels unoriginal, but 7 seems about right.
All right. Somebody's following me now. I like this. I like this. Edson. You muted. You muted. You muted.
5 points.
5 points. All right. I'm not gonna ask how you think you're gonna get the 5 points. I'm gonna save you from making explanations on this one. So everybody, once again, congratulations to San Antonio FC. A huge thank you for Steve and Danielle for creating Copa Tejas, all the effort they have put. And not just them, all the other supporter groups that came together and created this and has make this special. Another, I think, uh, positive point on Copa Tejas is the clubs taking ownership of that and participating and giving importance to that. I think although this is a grassroots, it is a supporters group project. It only comes to life and so strong with the support of the clubs, and I think all clubs in USL have given that importance. So we can discuss a little bit on MLS side. I think there's some people that don't care that much, and I think they're wrong. But for Copa Tejas, USL, I think we got something very good, so very cool going on, and something for life. I don't think this is ever going to go away, which is pretty cool. So again, congratulations to Steve and to Danielle for creating Copa Tejas, and thank you for that. Again, this is the Striker Tejas, part of the Striker Texas. We cover everything that we can now from Southern California, Atlanta, and of course our home state of Texas. All of that for a $5.99 a month subscription, and we can only do what we do if you subscribe to us. If you follow us on social media, so make sure that you're a subscriber, your friends are subscribers.